If you've heard New Order's Brotherhood, you may have been slammed in the face by the beauty, the orchestral layers and gorgeousness of All Day Long, a New Order song that we don't hear about as often, but is one of my top three for sure. Today I want to talk about what is the bass doing, what is Peter Hook up to, weaving the bass in and out, back receding during the verses, stepping forward between them, and then in this amazing second half of the song that we get, where you think an interlude is coming, but instead we get a whole nother half of the song that's basically an orchestra. And I'm going to show you at the end, in case you're playing some of this song, what are the main lines from bass, guitar, and synth at the end in that second half. But first, I want to talk through the song in terms of its meaning, and also a little bit about its musical structure. We have the key of D here, and once again, we have two chords, in this case, D and G. We talked before about how only two chords can still make a song, depending on the relationship between those two chords. And in this song as well, we have the similar relationship that we saw in Ceremony, a 1 chord and a 4 chord. And so together, those two are able to create enough interest, mystery, and suspense to make this amazing layered song. My name's Erin, this is Newish Wave. Thank you so much for watching. I'm going to read one paragraph out of Peter Hook's Substance Inside New Order, where he talks song by song through Brotherhood. We'll see what he had to say about All Day Long. And then we're going to take it to the piano a little bit and look at what is the bass doing during the verses, where it's holding steady and quiet. And then what is it speaking out and what is it calling out when it steps forward? Okay, quick quote from the book, and then we'll get into the music and also the lyrics, because as he says, the only song about child abuse you can dance to. So we do have a very heavy song, as Peter Hook says, dark, dark lyrics. And I believe that the instruments, especially bass, but also synth and guitar, are calling out the corruption behind this and speaking out for survivors and victims. And that's kind of my interpretation of this song. So I'm curious to hear what you think about it as well. One little bit more here. We have, Barney once drunkenly told me this was the only bass riff of mine he hated. Here I am. This is one of my top 3 songs. I fell in love with the bass at age 13 when I first discovered this album, which was when it came out. Personally, I think he got it mixed up with Angel Dust, but it hurt nonetheless, while many of us are in love with these bass lines. Very powerful live, with a sharp contrast between the synths and the orchestral overdubs. Great guitar work by Barney. So let's talk about that. When we start this song, the bass is kicking it real easy in the background. We are in the key of D, and it's just Ds and Gs. This is kind of where we're getting like, and then the first verse begins, and we continue to have the bass just hanging out in the background while we hear really what's happening here, where we're talking about people who are innocent and have been hurt by what adults do and been hurt by people that they've trusted and looked up to. But the bass stays quiet, and this is part of my theory for why maybe the bass is speaking out for survivors, because during the story, it's just staying back. But as soon as there's a moment between verses, it starts stepping forward. Now with Peter Hook's bass, he does beautiful work sliding up the frets here, and I can't really do that, so I'm kind of throwing in a note. That's what we hear between the two verses, where it's kind of like, you know what? I have something to say, and sneaking that in. Okay, then we go to the next verse and hear a little more about really these layers of power and corruption and deception. And we have the lyrics calling out perpetrators by saying, so don't tell me about politics, all the problems of our economics, when you can't look after what you can't own. I almost feel like this song could have been on power, corruption, and lies, because it really captures people using their power in these horrible ways. Okay, that verse wraps up, and then we get into where I just think the song gets even more amazing, that second half of Orchestra. Let's walk through it. So what might typically happen after a second verse is we would get an interlude, a little beautiful, I mean, New Order has amazing interludes, a little beautiful layering of instruments, and then often we would go back to a verse 3 and then just kind of wrap things up. But here it's even more exciting because what starts like an interlude leads into this orchestral moment. And so the bass is beginning it. After the I've got something to say, then it starts getting real upset. And meanwhile, the synth is coming in too. And the guitar is coming in too. And in a little bit here, when I'm wrapping it up, I'll leave you with a recording that shows bass, guitar, synth, bass, the 4 kind of main events happening in that longer part, kind of summarized, in case you want to try playing it and you'll be able to see from above. But what I think is happening there with that, the frustration, right? Even though during the verses, the bass had to be kind of quiet because, hey, I'm a kid, no one's listening to me, then it speaks out. And then it calls out people who are perpetrating this, right? And in the end, it goes kind of bass, guitar, synth, back to bass. And at the end of the song, the bass, guitar, and synth are all talking together. They're all rising up together. And I feel like the bass walks off stage, so to say, with a big FU, right? If I'm a survivor, I still have joy in my life. There's still passion, and this music is speaking up for people. So that's my interpretation. I love the song musically most of all, but upon studying the lyrics and kind of thinking, how are the instruments making a statement here? This was the interpretation that I came to. So let me know what you think, how you interpret the song, and what are your favorite parts in that second half when we hear that beautiful orchestra. Thank you so much for watching. My name's Erin. This is Newish Wave. I look forward to talking to you again soon with an upcoming video.